Hi guys, Luton here, and obviously there is only one thing people are talking about today: Battlefield Hardline. The information we have was discovered by Cohen Vlaswinkel, which I'm sure I just slaughtered like I always say, and he says that by looking into the source code of Battlelog and then a CSS file for Battlefield Hardline, this contained images and detailed information about the game, which is as yet unannounced and has no scheduled release. Now, as you're aware by now, your YouTube feed will be littered with Battlefield Hardline videos, and you can expect this to continue indefinitely now with all sorts of opinion, speculation, and anything that will get you to click your mouse and put your eyeballs against the screen long enough for it to count as a view. I'll try my best as always to not just simply present you with copied and pasted content, but actually put my thoughts forward for you to consider. Now, I'm not going to run you through a list of every item in the game. If you want to watch that, go and check out Level Cap's video. I've posted a link in the notes. But I will discuss today about some specific items we found via this information, as well as my overall appraisal of what Battlefield Hardline represents from the information that we have been presented with at this time. So let's start with the game. What will it be? Well, Battlefield Hardline will essentially be what has been speculated for months now, a game of cops and robbers, or police and thieves, or whatever you want to refer to it as, the crooks and rozzers. The reason this is significant is that it will be the first time that a Battlefield game will have stepped out of that military sphere. And perhaps, I guess more significantly, whilst we can assume that the game will run on the Frostbite engine, since this is one of EA's most powerful tools right now, the game is being developed primarily by Visceral Games, the force behind Dead Space. So this is definitely a whole new ball game, and whilst this can definitely create some concern amongst the hardcore community, I would say that for myself as a designer, having a fresh pair of eyes on something and a different approach is not necessarily something to be scared of or a bad thing. Indeed, it could be that this is just what the series needs to pick it up and inject some new life into the game. At the same time though, there is the shadow of yearly releases and EA pushing this motivation behind it. Although Medal of Honor is now dead in the water, it would honestly be just pure speculation to suggest that this is anything more than a singular release, and I think we would require some more definitive information about any sort of production schedule before we start committing to saying that, you know, this will be a regular rolling agreement, in the same way that the Call of Duty series has been operating on that sort of alternating release period for some time now between two different developers. So let's have a look now then at a couple of pieces of kit that I felt were interesting enough to be actually worth mentioning. I'll just say as a blanket statement, and to save you guys some time, the game will contain guns, grenades, various pieces of class specific kit. It will contain some helicopters, the scout and transport variety, and a multitude of transport vehicles, light armoured weaponized trucks, as well as a couple of bikes. So there you go. With that rounded up, let's have a look at the actually interesting pieces of kit, and I'm just going to run you through them in no specific order and discuss around them. First up, the deployable camera. Now this is fairly self-explanatory. What will be interesting though is whether this is simply enabling you to sort of have a spotting mechanic going on in the same way that the SOFLAM may do that with, you know, locking on, it just auto does it, whether it sort of sits there and just marks targets for you, or if it'll actually bring up an in-game video screen, much like that camera spike you'll remember from Call of Duty Black Ops. If it were to do that, that would be very interesting and could provide you some very strong tactical options. Next, the Grappling Hook and Zipline gun. Now I link these two together as they're both to do with vertical gameplay. The Grappling Hook last seen in Battlefield 2, which of course we saw lose its servers recently in the EA shutdown of older titles. But this will be a device no doubt for climbing buildings, obviously, and the Zipline gun will be some sort of adaptation of the same mechanic, but enabling you to traverse spaces or fly back down to the ground, I would imagine. It seems to be that they are indicated as separate devices, so it suggests there'll be plenty of like non-grappling routes to rooftop spaces, otherwise the zipline gun would surely be not particularly effective. However, the idea of flying down a zipline whilst raining down C4, we actually saw that on one of the little awards that you can get there, and no doubt that'll be coming to a funny moments montage near you very soon. Look forward to that. Hilarity ensues. Laser trip mines. For those of you who've never played the Half-Life series with laser trip mines, then get out now, please. For everybody else who's a real gamer, you'll be familiar with what laser trip mines are and the horror of them. However, what incarnation they'll take in Battlefield Hardline, we'll have to wait and see. It could be nothing more than a claymore with red lines coming out of it, so let's just see what happens with that one. Now, tasers. This seems an odd choice of kit to put into a Battlefield game when your primary objective would generally be to kill the op-4. They are within the fiction, though, of police and thieves narrative, so it could be nothing more than an in-fiction alternative backup weapon. However, seeing as tasers in real life are generally used to detain suspects, could we imagine some sort of game mode that requires them, actually as an in-game mechanic, where perhaps enables you to detain suspects? Or is that kit only going to be available to the police faction, or both? Will it just be a very sort of swish way of killing your guy, where it's like and you just shock them to death? Again, a little bit more information required there. Attachments, the one thing I want to say about attachments regarding them is that there's a lot of them. In Battlefield 4, multiple attachments contained the same stats and literally served no purpose whatsoever. You could just interchange them. It was a visual thing. And I'd hope that if they intend to include all those attachments listed on this leaked info, then they'll actually have adapted the stats so that each piece provides some variation in balance, so as to enable you to actually build true custom kits. If they're nothing more than eye candy, it'll be somewhat disappointing, even irritating, to be honest. The M16A4. Interesting to note that this is the A4 variant and not the A3. This could be down to literal mechanic choices, or it could be to avoid the negative connotations that are now permanently attached to the M16A3 after it became the noob weapon of choice from Battlefield 3. Can't play the game, M16A3. Adrenaline injection. This is a kit-specific tool and will likely be used with the Operator Reed Assault class. You'll remember this from Bad Company, where you're able to inject yourself on the go and give yourself a minor health boost. It would recharge and then you could use it multiple times. This enabled you to quickly heal on the go and not spend downtime sitting and waiting to heal on a medkit. I actually miss that, I really do, because you used to be able to run across the battlefield and you take a couple of hits, bam, hit that in the chest, and you could just keep on running. So it was really, really good, and I'm sure that, if that's indeed what it's going to do, which I've pretty sure that it will do, that's the role that it's going to be having. So yeah, look forward to that. But we don't know if that will be the role. Could it enable this, or could it actually be to do something else, like were you able to revive yourself? That would indeed be certainly crazy. The gas mask. Multiple FPS games have employed gas masks as a mechanic, and it's obviously a counter to the gas grenades coming in Battlefield Hardline. Now, this isn't a particularly exciting choice to mention. However, the reason I do is because we should wonder, how severe will the effects of a gas grenade be? What will its area of effect be? And will it kill or just disable you? Will it blur out your screen a la the Tranquilizer from Perfect Dark? Or will it only affect people severely in close proximity? These questions will determine if gas masks are worth choosing in your loadouts, along with if people even use gas grenades. Whether they choose them over a frag or not, we'll have to wait and see. It could be one of those things where it's actually pretty severe, but nobody wants to take it because they want that kill instead, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. Decoy. What the hell is a decoy? Well, this is a very vague description of a kit tool, and to me it sounds like something from the professional class, Read Recon. It sounds like something they would employ. In my mind, what this element could do is create some kind of false ping on a minimap, perhaps even create like a fake Dorito, if those make a comeback in Battlefield Hardline. And seeing as they've been a Battlefield element for some time, it'd be perfectly logical to assume that they will. If that is the case, this could actually be a powerful tool. Indeed, it could be a game-winning piece of kit. We've all seen painfully so many times when you mark one target, or somebody marks a target, and 75% of your team will rush, try to get the same kill. Meanwhile, 10 enemies slip past your flank and end the game. Let's pray people wise up fast if this is the case with the decoy. My tip, don't put any money on that happening. But I mean, if that is the case, it could totally ruin certain situations. Look forward to that if that's how that works. Again, total speculation. So all those pieces of kit I found to be of genuine interest and value to discuss. The rest was just your stock inventory of various guns and tools that you would expect to see, just your run-of-the-mill. Let's talk briefly about the two game modes in their names, Heist and Blood Money. Again, I think anyone could logically speculate on these two titles. Heist, well, what do you think that is? No doubt the criminals will have to perform some sort of heist operation which involves getting in, performing some action and getting out. The police's job would be to prevent this from happening. I mean, what else could it be other than that? Blood money is slightly more vague and could apply to, I guess, any number of situations. It could be some sort of hostage scenario where you as police have to stop it from happening. It could be that, you know, with a ransom involved. It could be that perhaps the thieves have already stolen some cash, got it out on the way, and you have to secure it from them. It could be some sort of variation on the headquarters theme, where you have to control a continually changing location, and perhaps the theme within that would be that a money drop off or something, and so the longer your team holds it, you eventually find the actual drop off point, and that's when you win the game. I don't know, so there's maybe like a time period attached to that. The variations on that one are pretty wide, and trying to guess it just from a title is nothing but pure speculation, so indulge yourselves on these two game modes in the comments. What do you think Heist and Blood Money will be about? Last up, the classes: Operator, Mechanic, Enforcer and Professional. These are going to be quite straightforward, and the titles will no doubt dictate various loadout options, as do the previous Battlefield titles loadouts. It'd be interesting to see how specific these have been made, and if they encourage a very specific role. If this game looks to be more infantry centric than your average Battlefield game, here's hoping that we won't be seeing a 90% assault class turnout. I really hope not. So with all of this being now injected into our brain cells, what do you think we'll see in Battlefield Hardline? Well, personally, what I would imagine would be something along the lines of Battlefield 3 Aftermath, but on the scale of a whole title. In Aftermath, we had an amazing balance of close quarter infantry engagements and light vehicle gameplay. This worked so well, and it was honestly for me the best DLC after Karkand in Battlefield 3. So when I envisage a game which is more infantry centric than your average Battlefield, I would like to imagine a combination of Karkand Aftermath with a bit of close quarters thrown in there, rather than the boringly obvious, oh god, it's going to be COD. I think that analogy has been not only beaten to death, but the beating stick is now broken too. It's been said a million times, it's not insightful or clever, and it's a numbingly easy analysis to make. It's probably the most obvious thing you could say. The interesting thing about Battlefield Hardline is that they clearly are focusing on infantry transport rather than large-scale vehicle combat with the cruisers and light armour. That's significant, as it would be the first Battlefield title to not really carry heavy armour, and I'm sorry tankers, I can hear your cries for despair right now, say I'm not going to buy the game. And personally, I feel this could actually be an awesome choice to make for something to mix up the series. I've said before, you know, that since Battlefield 3 Close Quarters, the gunplay in that game is one of the best around. I loved it, and I hope that this is what we see in Battlefield Hardline, lots of gunplay like that with some fast transporting thrown in with those cruisers and bikes and stuff. Bring the excitement and adrenaline you feel in games of capture the flag and obliteration, like when you're on those bikes and you're rushing and there's people shooting at you all over. That's what I want to see, like that, but on a more regular basis, instead of some of the games of Conquest now, which with tanks and stuff all over the place, and really honestly, like when I play some of those Conquest games now, the longer ones, they just can feel quite stale, you know. It's just kind of blah blah, push, move, whatever, you know. It doesn't have that kind of fluidity and energy that you can get with games of like obliteration. Now sound, I wanted to mention sound. I think that this will make the game if they do it right. We already saw that the sounds for Battlefield 4 were vastly improved from Battlefield 3, and I hope we have this continuation going forward into Battlefield Hardline. Now, I remember watching an analysis in the making of the movie Heat, and Heat is a game which immediately comes to mind when you think of something like thieves and robbers in an urban environment. It's a real classic, and in that the making of that I was watching, the sound engineers were discussing they had to process the audio they recorded from the legendary, you remember the gun battle in the later part of that movie in downtown LA as they're battling their way out of a large bank heist. But the sound engineers actually said that they found the only way they could represent that audio of firing those weapons was to use the footage raw, because they said they tried a load of different ways and they couldn't get that same kind of horrific sound. And I absolutely hope that the development team for Battlefield Hardline have taken a similar approach to the sounds that they're going to use in this game. Now there's a huge amount that remains to be seen with this title. Mechanics, stability, will it have CTE availability from the get-go, will it have an extended beta period, or the same short period before release? Would either of those help anyway? Surely this time, with everything that's been learnt from Battlefield 4, that can be passed on and implemented into Battlefield Hardline before it's even released, right? So many questions for us to answer on that too, and I'm certain that we'll have an enjoyably months of speculation and discussion around all of those, so that's something to look forward to, eh? What are your thoughts on Battlefield Hardline? Is this a bold new move to freshen up the franchise, or is it just a shot in the dark? Do you fear yearly content releases, or is this one-off break from the mold? And lastly, what do you make about the kits and game modes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to support me and the channel, please drop a like on the video, as it always helps me so much. And I'll see you next time for more Battlefield.